Hello. Okay, so this is what we call Buddha bits, short little presentations of things. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about Ton Len, or giving and taking. It's a very standard practice in Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, where you feel that you inhale the suffering of others and you exhale back love and compassion. And although I've been practicing for more than 50 years, and I've certainly have received lots of traditional instructions on that, as time's passed, I've sort of realized that maybe sometimes that's a little difficult, in the sense of that, and they say one of the points of Ton Len is to challenge your closed-mindedness and your sense of vulnerability. So you inhale the suffering of all sentient beings, and of course you feel overwhelmed and want to die, or you don't want to receive that. So I think that, okay, let's look at it from the point of view of being a Buddha, or from being a Bodhisattva. Okay, it's not like that you have to. Well, let's say you have the attitude that may everybody be happy and have the causes of happiness. May everybody be free of suffering and the cause of suffering. Okay, that's the attitude that you live in. But and you could say, of course, the Buddhas are omniscient and spontaneous, so they will manifest wherever anybody calls on them. But if we're talking about ourselves as a practitioner, what you might want to think of is in terms of this, is that rather than, let's say, stressing yourself with, oh my God, look at that, and look at this, or oh my Buddha, just saying, okay, may I be empathetic? So when you have an empathetic feeling, it means you cognize the suffering of somebody. Then that would be your inhaling. And then you say, well, gee, may they be free of that. And next you're exhaling. So it's not so much of this sort of challenge to your personality and to how you feel, but it's rather just a development of empathy. And so, and the thing is, you can even apply that to yourself. Now, how does that work? We often hear of people saying that, love yourself, care for yourself, And so, yes, but you have to be a little bit careful how you phrase that. So, for example, if you wanted to love yourself, let's say you love somebody, what would you do? You do something for them, okay? So if you were to apply that to yourself, then you're going to do something for yourself. So the causes of your problems, or low self-esteem, or hatred of self, or whatever it may be, would be based on some previous thing that you've done. That you did that, and therefore now you have the results of that. So whether it was a decision you made that then you acted on, or maybe it was something that happened to you. So what you do is you bring that part of yourself in front of you. And even the Dalai Lama talks about this. I was once in a personal interview with him, and he said he was talking about how to deal with being a monk and then desires. And he said, well, I visualize myself, which is full of desire, in front of me in a chair, and I'm in a chair. And then I say, well, what's your problem? And he'd say, well, I'd like to be married and have children. And then I'd say, well, I'm a monk. And then he would say, well, I don't care. And I would say, well, I do care. He says, I have a dialogue, and sometimes I win the dialogue, and sometimes I don't. Anyway, point being is that if you have some previous issue, or even you just have this sense of low self-esteem, you visualize it sitting in front of you, saying, oh, poor me, and I'm so weak, and I'm so whatever, pathetic, or whatever it might be. You have that in front of you, and you go, wow, that hurts. And that's your inhalation. You don't have to think, I take on your suffering. You cognize, oh, that is suffering. And then almost, I'd say, spontaneously, that you would then say, whoa, and then you exhale back, may you have happiness the cause of happiness, may you be free of suffering the cause of suffering. So there's not this great big idea of like, I inhale all the suffering of the universe, it's black smoke, and it comes into my heart, and my heart cracks open, the black thing in my heart, and it cracks open, and all this white light perfuses me, and then I exhale that back to all sentient beings. That's very intellectual, and I don't disagree with it. It does change attitude. But I think if we were to look at it from the point of view of a bodhisattva, or just a being of some enlightened quality, that they see things and they go, oh, that hurts, And even, for example, if you see somebody who's angry or attached or manipulative, if you know how much that is a suffering state of consciousness, again, you don't judge them. You say, wow, you're not creating real causes of happiness. You're mistaken in what you're thinking will produce happiness for you. And so therefore you inhale that, and then you exhale back love and compassion. It's so much easier. For example, I brought up my stepson. I loved him dearly, but he continually made very difficult decisions and such like that. There's a lot of suffering. I mean, lots and lots of suffering. He did become a drug addict, and finally, because of that, he became schizophrenic, and finally that because he died. So that's very sad for me. So how could I deal with that? Well, one is I dropped expectations. I love him. That's all I would ever say to him. I love you. And then I would say, like, a situation, and okay, I would say, whoa, there's a lot of suffering. I inhale, and I'd say, may you have happiness. May I in some way help you? And I exhale, okay? And the funny thing is that although he had a very hard life, and even on several occasions, he said, I really appreciate you. I love you dearly. Even though he couldn't get over his problems and his addictions and such like that. And that was something I could offer. It wasn't a judgmental, oh, you failed me, you're not the son I wanted or something. It was, okay, you have these issues and I love you. So that's in regards to somebody in your life. If regards for yourself though, maybe you have something that's really problematic for you, some deep issue. So put that person, create that sense of yourself that's had that problem in front of you, and then say, wow, that's a lot of suffering, And it's so funny when you see it as a perspective on yourself, especially if you say, wow, that's what's sad. It's not pity, it's that's suffering, And then you can almost say it's spontaneous. You say, well, may you have happiness. So the cognition is your inhalation to some extent. Although, you could do it physically tie it with your inhalation. But the bigger thing is cognition. That's a lot of suffering. And then just your exhale is just, may you be free of that. And if you do that with yourself, what you're establishing in yourself is a much stronger position of perspective on some previous issues and the capacity to have compassion and love for them. And that really is loving yourself. So rather than saying, oh, poor me, I need love, yes, no. You have to sort of open yourself up a little bit and say, okay, there was this issue, this experience, or this trauma that happened in my life. It was an event, so that means it's an experience in consciousness, okay? I put that in front of me, and now I'm going to look at that. And I say, whoa, that's a lot of suffering. And then, as I say, whether you inhale or whether you just cognize the suffering, and then you say, well, may you be free of suffering, the cause of suffering. And you actually fertilize, you stabilize within you a perspective of compassion to that. And then the big thing is, if you meet another person with low self-esteem or some other trauma, you almost automatically have, wow, I understand you. And then, may you have happiness, the cause of happiness. May you be free of suffering, the cause of suffering. So it's completely different than some sort of intellectual imagination, like, oh, the black smoke within you, I inhale it. That's such an intellectual point of view. Whereas what we're working with is with our feelings. And I remember reading in, I think it was the Umashikapa, or maybe it was the Entering the Middle Way, the Madhyamika Avatara by Chandrakirti. He says in the first level, the first bhumi of the Bodhisattva, I believe it's called joyous, he says, the empathy of the Bodhisattva motivates them incredibly. So it's not like you have to demand compassion out of you. It's rather you have empathy, and then from empathy automatically comes compassion. So that's a Buddha bit for today. And please enjoy that as much as you'd like to. Of course, and I'll try to do lots of other little bit of bits as time goes by. So wishing you well, big hugs, and goodbye from John.